Hey, and welcome to Geopolitics 411. And this space is about to get hot and hotter by the day. With a presidency having Trump at the top and making all the changes he's making in the world, you can trust the geopolitics space is going to be very, very interesting and entertaining at the same time. Just the same day he was sworn in, the first order of business for President Trump was to sign executive orders that had different things and that affected different issues. For this particular one, I am talking about his signing of having the US withdraw from the World Health Organization. This is key because this means they will also suspend a lot of aid that helps with medical and health factors, and also that helps a lot of what goes on in the African and third world countries. So this is something that affects the globe as a whole, but I believe Africa as a whole will also get affected big time, and even the US will suffer more if, for instance, a pandemic happens. Sit back, let's find out why the US would also be suffering. So on his first day, he signed a barrage of executive orders, and which most reversed policies that were done by the Biden administration. But the key one was the one citing they want to withdraw the US from the World Health Organization, with key being that he feels, or rather the US feels, that China does not make enough contributions or equal contributions compared to the population that they cater for, compared to what the US makes. They put in a lot of money and get little in return. Secondly, he says there were a lot of, he had issues with how the World Health Organization handled the COVID pandemic in 2020, and issues here being influenced from other political issues or political member states. So, Donald Trump was not happy with this, and hence why he came in and made these signages first. So the most interesting thing is that when he was signing this, the clip, when he was signing this particular order, he asked, so what is this? And he was told it's the one on withdrawing from World Health Organization. He said in a very exciting way, that's a big one. And of course, everyone is asking, why is it big? One is because this could be a Cold War between China and the US. And of course, him citing that China is not putting in enough funds, that tells you this is a thing of comparative. We are the superpower. We put in more money. If we withdraw from this World Health Organization, even China will suffer. But China comes back with a report and says, no, it's a health affair. We will not allow this to happen, and we will put in our money. So the question here is, will Trump back down? Will Congress vote and say, no, we can't do that for the purposes of country and humanity? We don't know. We will wait because there's 1 year period where this decision can be made depending on how the voting goes. So the US contributes more than $100 million annually to the World Health Organization, making it the organization's top donor trusted source. And these funds help with readiness and response efforts for public health issues, support global efforts around routine childhood immunization like BCG issues in Kenya, TB, curative health issues, and HIV treatment and prevention. And this is big actually in Kenya and across Africa, because that's an issue if left alone, I don't think we can handle by ourselves. So if US withdraws, that will be very dangerous in terms of HIV spread. And I think with that, that statement by the president, I think it's very careful for, especially young people, to be very careful how you carry yourself, because at some point, maybe the funding for ARVs will not be there. I'm just saying. Be careful how you handle your sex life, because you never know how this goes. And if it goes south, then it would mean there would be a lot of pressure and suffering among the citizens. So removing funding from these public health initiatives could threaten any progress made in global health, particularly in developing countries that rely on this funding. That means if, for instance, today the number of people who have HIV in Kenya, let's give it like 200,000, if that money is withdrawn, and of course these people will continue enjoying life like anyone else and having, say, sex, that means HIV continues spreading. If someone cuts themselves and you share the same razor or something, and you see the net effect would be a big population having HIV with no help, because Kenya does not produce ARVs, for instance, or Africa for that matter. So the impact for Kenya in particular, because a lot of Kenyans have been asking, is that who funds the HIV programs? And this comes in the testing. So they send the kits, they share the ARVs, and also it sustains in treatment and some maternity programs and other health programs that are across the country. So Kenya's health sector, unfortunately, highly relies on donor funding. So with the withdrawal of donor funding for the next 90 days means we will probably be at a halt, or particular services will come at a halt, and that will hurt a lot of people. And of course, if the drugs are not available, more people suffer. WHO is also engaged in research that offers evidence-based approach to medical emergencies like smallpox, like what is happening in Tanzania. There's the Marburg virus. WHO comes in and helps with containing it by giving drugs, giving vaccines, doing the research to ensure how services can be provided to ensure it does not spread. So they have a lot of things they do across the world. The gap in funding, in particular in Kenya, if that order goes to action, will be about 40 billion Kenya shillings just for HIV programs. That is just HIV programs. So you can imagine these other health factors that they cater for. So if in our country, for the budget is in trillion, but imagine if we withdraw 40 billion, what that means. That would mean a lot of suffering, especially for the citizens. The other thing that we sort of look at it as Kenyans and feel like maybe the US will not fully do a withdrawal. Even if they did those withdrawals, they'll find a way of working with Kenya. One, because there's no free gift that comes to Kenya or Africa for that matter. Their calculation will be, how much money are we putting in this nation? What value are we getting? So I believe they will look at it, calculate what they get from Kenya, for instance, and then depending on the value, they'll let certain things slide and then they'll put in the money. So there's always a small price you have to pay for what you get, because you can't just come and get value and then leave people with nothing. So basically that's how that will go, in my opinion. According to the Data Aid Network, it estimates that the US government contributes approximately $1.68 billion, which is equated to about 252 billion annually to Kenya's economy. So you can see the amount of money that they inject in this country. Of course, with that money, there is value and there are things they get, which perhaps we cannot substantiate in terms of value, because mostly they don't want to give the value, they don't want to state it. But we know when they inject 252 billion, they must be getting value for that money. So something else is that that includes another 129.4 billion, which they give in direct aid. So this is given as aid to a country, maybe through, let's say, if they are distributing through the UN or these programs, World Food Program, or other organizations that run different projects in Kenya. So they put in all that money because they also know they get value, and value comes in different ways. We have minerals in Kenya. Maybe they get licenses for their companies to practice. They can get, there are different things they get. But that's basically just how the world works. It's usually a give and take. Nobody gives you a free gift 100% as a nation. It has to be give and take. So the US government has been a leading provider of aid in international organizations here in Kenya, such as the United Nations, the World Health Organizations, World Food Program, and there are so many of them that are associated with the UN. So this means Kenya could face, if indeed they withdraw the full funding that they were talking about and suspend all foreign assistance programs for whatever number of period that Trump feels, that means Kenya could face considerable effects from Trump's orders, and it will be felt not just at the highest level, but even at the ground level, because most of these projects get to the ground for the common man. So what roles perhaps does WHO play? One critical role is responding to worldwide outbreaks. I mean, you saw it during the COVID season. So they advocate for global equity in matters health, and they approve vaccines. So by the time a vaccine goes into the market and to different countries, it has to go through the World Health Organization testing and all those lab issues, check everything is in order, check the effects so that at the end of it all, they're not putting something in the market that kills, or rather maybe that adds value to the world. So another reason for Trump's withdrawal is that China donates less than the US. And Trump was key on saying China's population is 3 times what is the US. So why does the US have to give in more money to a program to an organization that helps the world as a whole? And he was tying it to during the time of COVID, that they were not honest in how they communicated, hence why the world suffered the COVID lockdown. So he feels like, I think it's just Trump trying to show China, we are the superpower. We can fight you in different ways. It doesn't have to be like a war like what we've seen with Russia and Ukraine, but he's trying to say it's a mind game, and that's why he wants to, withdraw. However, there has to be a 1-year notice, as I had mentioned, so that we have to watch and see if indeed Congress votes and allows that to happen. At the moment, World Health Organization has about 194 member countries, and these members are responsible for a number of important health programs that run across. And mostly it's on vaccines, because that is key. So if the US decides, okay, fine, Congress decides we are exiting this World Health Organization, what would be the loss for the US? Number one, by not being a member, the US would also lose access to global database on health information, because you're not a member, so it doesn't guarantee that you will get information about health that would be of value to you as a nation. So they would lose that. Number two, they would not get even information on surveillance, because when, let's say, a virus, there's an outbreak, what happens, World Health Organization issues a surveillance notice across, not just for the US, across member states. So each member is able to follow up on what is happening. So that means the US would also lose that. And of course, even for existing infectious diseases, even COVID at the moment, they are still trying to follow up and see if there are any developments on the different viruses. So they would lose that also. And that would mean that US would now become more vulnerable to microbial threats from around the world. Like if I'm in Kenya and I travel to the US and maybe I have a virus that had not been fully discovered, then I land there, it means I'm going to spread this. Number two, if I left the country with that virus, and because the US now is not a member state, does not guarantee that they'll get information, it will mean they'll miss out on that. So I don't know, I think they will put a lot of considerations on this before they can make the decision as Congress votes. So it means we are going to see a lot more disease outbreaks become regional and global. For instance, we are saying there is Marburg virus in Tanzania. If the World Health Organization does not put conditions on how this virus is handled, it means one can easily move. So I could be having the virus and travel and take that to the US. So basically you expose a region and the globe to health issues that would have been sorted if you were a member of the World Health Organization. So those are things that I feel maybe the US will take into consideration. Not 100%, I mean, it's Donald Trump. He can do as he pleases, but bottom line, at least the law is the supreme thing in the US. So Congress will make this decision. Best solution would be to have bilateral talks. I mean, World Health Organization was formed in 1948, and probably a lot has not been changed in terms of membership and what is expected of each membership country. So what would work is have maybe bilateral talks whereby all these members come and discuss, okay, if it's the US, how much money should the US put in vis-a-vis the benefits? Okay, if it's China, how much money do they put in and what value do they get? If it's the developing world, like Africa, for instance, of course you cannot put Africa to be contributing as much as the US would contribute for obvious reasons at the moment. But what value would Africa give? Africa has land. If, for instance, CDC wants to expand, what can Africa do? Africa could give land. And we also have professionals in the medical sector. What would we do? Bring in these young professionals to do the research. And this will maybe be of value to each member states in that way. Why it's important for the bilateral talks? You see, Chinese foreign ministry said they will offer support, like they won't allow for a gap. Do you think the US would genuinely want a dominance of the World Health Organization or the health sector dominated by China? I highly doubt. I don't think they will want that. US always wants to dominate in all aspects of life. So I believe this is just a flexing. It's a way of even China wants to flex and show we can actually push this WHO and move forward. But on the other hand, it was a way of maybe also Trump trying to flex and say, yo, it's the US, we have the muscle, we can destabilize for a moment so that we can come to an agreement and push an agenda the way we like it done. That's how I look at it. That's the issue about World Health Organization, and I believe with the Trump presidency, brace yourself for more entertaining and just dramatic issues on the geopolitical space. And yeah, we will keep watching and analyzing different things just to see how the world is changing. Thank you for watching Geopolitics 411 by now. I hope you've subscribed. If not, please do subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episodes. The world is fast-paced and sometimes you miss the action. What perspectives do you have? What is the truth? Is the world at war? Join me, Sarah Mwangi, as we make sense of the information overload.